Dear friends, first of all, of course, I want just to thank Dimitris and all friends from Greece for this very kind invitation and to be here together with so many prominent experts from different European and countries and the United States. It's good and at the same time bad to be at the end of the conference, to speak at the end of the conference, because first of all it's good because you know what think the others in this hall. But at the same time it's very dangerous because many of the things that we want to say here, they were said before there from the others. That's about, let me just speak, not to read all the texts that are prepared for this conference, just to say some words about the situation in our home, the situation on the Balkans. And the problem is that one of the conflict fields in this world today, one, let me say, of the old new apple of the conflicts in this world is again, and will be in the next decade, the Balkans. The problem is that the disintegration of the Soviet Union and the downfall of the real socialism created the terrain of East Europe for a global invasion on the part of the United States, European Union and NATO. And the major problem with this frontal offensive against the former socialist countries at all fronts of their political, economic and spiritual life was that the West did not have a uniform vision about their future constitution. Quite the opposite, their future turned into a terrain of sharp ideological and political conflicts, not only between the leading ideological schools, but also between the leading Western countries themselves. Old imperialistic ambitions were waked to a new life. All this became particularly apparent on the Balkans in a comprehensively short period of time, and not without the help of external forces. On the map of the peninsula appeared as many as 12 countries instead of 6. Nevertheless, the process of establishing a new version of Balkanization is yet far from the being over. There are new demands for retailoring of the newly established border. In my opinion, the present-day situation in Europe and the world creates new prerequisites for a renewed manifestation of the region as a field of confrontation of the world forces that are drawing the new spheres of influence upon the geopolitical map of the 21st century. What are the grounds for such a conclusion? The first circumstance is connected with the deep crisis in contemporary international relations, the collapse of the Yalta universe that had been supported for a decade upon the foundation of a bipolar world in terms of geopolitical viewpoint forced humanity to face a global Balkanization in this world. And of course, on that basis, we must not forget the, let me say, the old-new dream of the United States to realize the old idea of Pax Americana. At the same time, of course, the United States are proving the possibility to bring the dark work for this target, not to themselves, but much more for their partners, first of all from NATO, and secondly in the European Union. The second circumstance is connected with the condition of the existing regulators of the European and world security. Most disturbing is the situation with the United Nations. We can say today that the United Nations are in the situation, to be, let me say, in the situation of real impotency. The situation with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe is not much better. The additionally established crutches intended to balance security decisions such as G8 and G20 do not function efficiently either. The only integrative structures that functions more or less successfully, but which nevertheless draw more dividing lines in the geopolitical aspect than they unite the world in a civilizational one, remained the offsprings of the Cold War, exactly European Union and NATO. And the third circumstance is connected with Russia and its politics dedicated to the establishment of new model of relations and new global system of security in the world. Moscow today, is going to make a big changes in its strategy in the world policy. You remember probably that, let me say a decade before, the politicians in Soviet in Russia, also the experts from Russia, they spoke much more about the future of the world as the world with multi-power structures on the field of the security. Today, it's, let me say, forgotten. Today, they are speaking much more about the new pull in one bipolar world. Not only speaking about this, but at the same time, acting quite good in this direction. Practice shows that the concept of a common European home does not work. As the crisis in Ukraine has shown, the emancipation of the European Union from the United States is still more of desire than a reality. The plans for an independent policy of the European Union in the sphere of the international relations and of security remain a fiction. And the very future of the European Union is connected, according to the analysts in Kremlin, with a lot more worries than with real opportunities for it to become recognized as an independent center of world politics and economy. Assessing objectively the American pressure in the East and the building of an regional sanitary cordon around their own borders, Moscow is looking for perspective geopolitical decisions of its own in the East. There are sustainable efforts for the establishment of the new geopolitical center in a future bipolar world together with China. The Russian military potential and the huge raw material resources combined with the still yielding positive effects, inertia momentums in its politics and international influence as of the time of the Soviet Union logically interact with the impressive economic potential and civilizational adaptability of China. Should it also aid to these traditional spheres of influence of the two countries along with their close ideologically motivated visions of the future, then there are, at least for the time being, sustainable links for a sustainable strategic union. Also significant is the circumstance that the growing anti-Americanism in the world combined with the impossibility of present-day capitalism to offer whatsoever alternative paradigms of development drives the huge majority of developing countries towards their geopolitical fairway. But where do the Balkans stand in this process? The fight for the new geopolitical division of the world provides them with a central place in the clash of this so defined multi-directional geopolitical interests. Besides the already mentioned prerequisites for the peculiar place of the geopolitical map of Europe, we should also add a number of additional circumstances. The first of them is connected to the fact that they are a border area for the United States and NATO, not only in terms of the Middle East and North Africa, but in terms of Russia and the post-Soviet region as well. Their strong presence in the region can also have a disciplinary effect in relation to the overly ambitious Turkish political elite that is increasingly trying to play a geopolitical game of its own, including going deep in its play to the detriment of the United States and their allies in the European Union, as well as of Moscow and Beijing. With the opening of the Ukrainian front and the insistent play in the Caucasus, with the continuous explosive, inevitable enlargement of the North in the Middle East, the Balkan Peninsula acquires an ever-growing strategic significance. And the second circumstance is linked with the fact the Balkans, except for the post-Soviet region, are not the only still unassimilated by the European Union and NATO region on the old continent. This creates additional opportunities for a confrontation clash of interests in an economic, military, political, and spiritual plan. To all this should be added also the traditionally strong and linked to the historical tradition opportunities for Russian influence. This holds true particularly for the Slavic and the East Orthodox countries. It is also a major element in the Russian politics of the soft power. Well, and at the end, as a conclusion, the problem is that we are very strong, very hard working on the field of, let me say, diagnostic of the situation. But at the same time, we are too far to give the real answer to the topic of our conference, what to do. You see, 2 days we are discussing this problem, and I proved to collect, well, any kind of general ideas, what we can do. But we got not far from this, just to say that we must, well, collect our visions, that we must make such kind of conferences, that we must use our personal contacts and influences inside our countries, but it's pity, but it's not enough. I think that the most important today is just to think and to speak about the instrumentarium of our common work. And this idea about let me say, common struggles on the field of the propaganda using the internet possibilities, for example, is quite good, but it is not enough. And one of the most important problems in front of every one of us and all of us together is that we must, well, fight against not only very strong enemy, but we must fight against the society which is constructed on the body of the market, that means of the money. And it's mission impossible, well, to field successful war against such kind of, let me say, structures. That's about, I think that the following discussion after our conference could be very useful when we can find some solutions, some ideas in this direction. Thank you very much.